to another episode of Dynasty Talks with Wolfio Guns and my friend 3D Ice Caprice.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And today we're going to talk about Dynasty Warriors 9 and kind of our thoughts and expectations on what this game is going to be for us. And something I wanted to mention before we got started was that Tecmo Koei released, the only thing they've really released related to Dynasty Warriors 9 was an announcement. They said, sorry for not making an announcement in 2015, but something big is coming out in 2016 with a picture of Dynasty Warriors characters above it. Now, whether this is referring to Dynasty Warriors Iketsuden, which is something we'll cover next time around, or Dynasty Warriors 9 has yet to kind of really been revealed. But maybe that is Dynasty Warriors 9. But without further ado, let's go into what we think, what we expect will come from Dynasty Warriors 9 and kind of what we want from it. And I'm going to kick it off with a general idea or direction of Dynasty Warriors 9 because lately it seems that the new Dynasty Warriors games have taken certain directions to make themselves different from the last game. You know, why should I buy Dynasty Warriors 8 when Dynasty Warriors 7 is pretty much the same game? Well, here's some new features, here's a new story, this is why. For Dynasty Warriors 7, it was the introduction of Jin and a new story mode, or a new gameplay mode, Conquest mode. Dynasty Warriors 8, it was an expansion on Jin, some new stories, some really great stories, and the reintroduction of hypotheticals. With Dynasty Warriors 9, it's hard to tell exactly what route they're going to take. But I'll tell you what route I really want them to take, and I think that would be the best for them. And that is to kind of go backwards, you know, to not kind of just expand more on Jin, because I personally feel that they've climaxed with the Jin story, that the Jin characters have reached a great level. That story is great. They can flesh out the story they have now more, and I'm sure you'll expand on that with all those different characters, Wei and the factions like that. But for me, it's go back to the roots of the story, because it's almost at this point the beginning is a tutorial. The Yellow Turban Rebellion is a tutorial. Dong Zhuo, that story isn't really fully fleshed out. I think that if they need to expand more characters, and I'm not clamoring for new characters and weapons that much, I really am not. They've added a lot of stuff so far. I think if they do expand, it needs to be they expand on the 10 Eunuchs Rebellion. They expand on the Yellow Turban Rebellion. They flesh that out more. We get more characters out of them. We get more out of Yuan Shao. We get more out of Dong Zhuo. And we get more out of the minor factions all around China during this time. Because Wu, Wei, and Shu were really not that big for most of the story they tell. You know, we've got Liu Yao, we've got Tao Qian, we've got Liu Biao, Gong Sun Zan. Lots of minor, I put air quotes here, minor in the game, not that minor in the actual story they're trying to tell. And if you combine that with the Dynasty Warriors, the old way they used to tell the story, the cutscenes and just the way they gripped you, especially in Dynasty Warriors 7, with maybe some of the choices and some of the tools, you know, some of the groundwork they laid with the Lu Bu campaign, they combine all that together. I think that they can really make a nice, fleshed out Dynasty Warriors 9. What are your thoughts on that?
That was beautifully said. What's it called? I'm not too sure, in all honesty, because I really fell in love with Dynasty Warriors 8, and I loved that Jin was so new. And it's not that I was tired of Wei, Wu, and Shu, but I loved that they really made Jin this really powerful army. But at the same time, I completely agree with you. I would love to find out more about Yuan Shao. I would love to find out more about, Liu Biao and Gansun San and many people like that. And sorry if I butcher some of it, but
No, of course. We're both
what's
white
it called?
people.
Because I'm kind of drawing a blank, but there was this one guy who Sima Yi took out, and he named himself King of Yan, and I can't remember his name, but Sima Yi wound up taking him out, and I would have loved for like cutscenes or maybe more story into why he rebelled against Wei, and just kind of more in depth like that. But really, what I'm hoping for Dynasty Warriors 9, among everything else, is that they go back to Dynasty Warriors 7 like cutscenes. I like Dynasty Warriors 8 cutscenes were good, but Dynasty Warriors 7 cutscenes were so involved. They were very like you felt like you were there. Like the
Hmm.
cutscenes are so
Absolutely.
emotional and so realistic, and it's just really awesome.
I
Um,
agree with you. I really do agree with you. But I'm just gonna throw this in there because this seems like an appropriate time. What do you think about the voice acting? Do you want English voice acting back for this?
I absolutely do want English voice acting. I think that they do a really good job. I know most people don't think they do, but
Right.
I honestly think they do. I really like. I love the English voice acting. I think it's pretty good. Again,
Hmm.
I'm like in the minority group
Yeah.
here.
No. Yeah. I don't remember the stat I saw. I read something where I can't remember it exactly. I think they sold more and it was received better without the English.
I
And
believe
I
that.
I personally I agree with you. It doesn't need to be good. I'm not watching an anime, you know. I
Right.
don't need to see this perfect acting and voice acting job. It was just more engaging as a player to hear a language I understood. Maybe at some point in my studies I'll learn Japanese and I'll be right at home with the original game. Until then, I wouldn't mind some English, you know? I'm not paying attention to the subtitles while I'm playing the game. There's too much
Right.
going on.
Exactly. Right. Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, at least, like, I think in Warriors of Orochi 3, there was at least an option. Like, you could, not that you could, because I know it was all in Japanese, but I think there was an option for, like, Japanese or English subtitles at the very least. And I'd love if they did that with actual voices. So, like, you
Right.
had an option. You could, if you want Japanese voices, you could do Japanese voices. If you
Yeah,
want
like a
English,
movie.
right, exactly. And, because, I mean, just think that, that's a lot of people losing jobs, first of all. But on top of that, like, you know, they work hard, and I don't know. I think they do a pretty good job. I think Dong Jun does a great job
Hmm.
of his voice actor.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
pretty funny.
I think Zhuge Liang does a great job of his voice
Hmm.
actor. I think Gan Ning does an awesome job of
Yeah.
his. He's like
Oh
just
yeah.
so kick ass. And then there are other people too that like Shu Shu and Dian Wei. I mean,
Oh, and Zhang Liao. I always loved Zhang Liao's voice actor.
it's true. In Dynasty Warriors 8 to Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends, they actually changed his voice actor. And at first I didn't like his Extreme Legends voice actor,
Right.
but he really grew on me. And so I like him a lot now. But yeah, no, I really hope that Dynasty Warriors 9 really goes back and takes a lot of the good cutscenes from Dynasty Warriors 7 and really makes it very emotional again.
So another thing that I want to mention, I brought it up a little bit when I talked about the voice acting, is I saw somebody else talk about it too. They think it's becoming a little bit too fan service, that the game is becoming too much like an anime. And I love anime, but this game is not one. And I do agree that they took a direction. It's not a major thing. For the most part, there's a reason I make these Dynasty Talks videos with you, and my channel is covered in Dynasty Warriors because I love this game. But they're taking a route with some of these characters that is just it's fan service and it's kind of crap in my opinion. Leon Shi, she's a nice character, but it's obvious why she's there. The
Hmm.
Kiao sisters, they're not as fan servicey to Americans, but they've got this weird little girl thing going on, and I don't think that really has a place in the story. If they're gonna spend those resources making new characters, costumes, and weapons for them, I think it should be directed uh, to yes, female roles. I don't have a problem with females being in the game, but females that fill a good purpose. I can't remember the new one in Wei. I think her name, or she might have been from Jin. Wei Yin, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of the Jin actually female characters are for the most part not that fan service from what I can remember, and they play a pretty good role. I like Sun Zheng. I never really got behind her character, but she could have the potential to be an important female character. I did like, man, I'm pulling a blank now. Um, Jin Kai, I loved her character.
Yeah. I
It,
love
they,
Shinkai.
I wouldn't say they need a more serious role, but Tecmo Koei, they make games where it's kind of fan service, girls with big boobs fighting each other.
Right.
And there's an audience for that. I get that. I really wouldn't mind if they stepped back and said, "All right, let's make Lubu a badass and make all of these characters actually determined to conquer China."
Right.
You
Hmm.
know. That
Right.
would make Dynasty Warriors 9 bad. And I think that is a route they can do to get back to those Dynasty Warriors 7 cutscenes, you know? If you
I
had
agree.
more serious characters going on, then the
Right.
dialogue could feed into how serious they are. They don't need to be angry looking serious, you know? They don't all need to look like Lu Bu, but there needs to be more emotion, you know?
Right.
It kind of feels like a slice of life anime. It's for some of these cutscenes. I'm like, are they really just having a picnic right now? Like, okay. Anything else specific? If not, we can roll into some of the finer details we'd like to see. Does that sound
Um,
good?
I guess I have just one minor thing.
All right. Fun.
I I guess something because I know we've been like not complaining, but kind of like talking about what we want for future things. I think one thing I really love that Dynasty Warriors has definitely been doing right is definitely the music, and of course you knew I was gonna say something
Of
like
course.
this. I have to say the music has only gotten better and better, and I'm really hoping they continue with that. I love how each army has their own introduction and their own overture, and I love that, and I hope they stick with that because it really like it almost gives you like nationalism for like that that army, and I love that a lot. Like I love the Jin overture and intro, same with all the others, and I really hope they continue to make the music as awesome as they are. I love in Dynasty Warriors 8 they made a lot of remixes, and they came out awesome. So
I agree. I think that at some point, some of the music took a turn for a weird direction. It was a little bit of like they turned that old Dynasty Warriors stuff into kind of like a dubstep almost, you know, around 6. But Dynasty Warriors 8 is really where I think they knocked it out of the park. I went back, I listened to the soundtrack, and I said, wow, this is good. They took what was good before, you know, that fast paced electric guitar, not music you would typically consider good in general if you were listening to it in your car on the way to work, but while you're kicking ass in this game, it's fucking awesome to listen to.
right,
I think they took it, they made it new, and they made it great. And I think that, honestly, I wholeheartedly agree with you, but I would like to see that old Dynasty Warriors music as an option throughout the entire game. You know, not just Empires, not Extreme Legends. At all times, you don't need to unlock it. I would just like it to be available at every battle whenever I want to listen to it.
true, true. I like that idea too.
I know, you know, you got to work towards unlocks, but we've already got weapons, horses, items,
I know.
characters. We got plenty of shit to unlock, you know. I want to listen to your soundtrack. Let me listen to it.
It's true. 100%ing Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends is very difficult.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's get into some of the specifics we wanted to talk about. I know you wanted to talk about kind of like the last episode we did. We had favorite army, weapon, character, battle. Well, we're going to bring up a couple of things we would like to see in the new game that has not yet been added. Go ahead. What army, character, what do you want to see?
Well, kind of going back to what I was saying before is that I definitely and completely agreeing with you, and I'm working off what you said. I really like the idea of like making the other factions that aren't even considered factions, but just the other smaller armies like um, more prevalent in the story. And one example I have is Ma Chao, his father. What's his name?
Mateng.
Mateng. Mateng. He owns a pretty. He owned a pretty big chunk of land before Cao Cao took it, and it's really sad because the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, one of those games, very like emotionally portrays a cutscene where his father sends Ma Chao to fight in the front lines, and like the whole Ma family is there, and they just get completely destroyed, and it's very sad. And basically what I'm getting at is that I'd love if they went into more details like that. Like I'd love to find out more about Matang, and again like the King of Yan I was talking about. So things like that. That's one thing I'd love to find out more about, like characters like that. And then if I had to say, I would love if Yuan Shao was an army that was playable. Because
Yeah.
the hypotheticals that could go into that would probably be so awesome.
Oh yeah, he's got people. You know, he's got an army. They're not all playable yet, but at some point we've got Zheng He, Zhao Yun, and then you could add Yan
Yama.
Liang,
Mm-hmm.
Wen Chou. He's got strategists. He's got Guo Si, not Guo Si. I'm sorry. Guo Tu, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Zun
Mm-hmm.
Yu, a couple of Zun Yus. He's got all sorts of people. You don't need to make all of them playable, but
Right.
there is something to build with if they were to go a direction with a new army.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I agree with you with the smaller factions. I totally. They don't need to be playable, but give them more attention.
Right.
The Yellow Turban Rebellion, in my opinion, is a really interesting point in the story. It's the beginning. It sets the stage, but it's a tutorial. I understand that, and then they don't flesh it out. They just throw some magic at you, and then boom, the battle's over. There's a lot more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
They can go into the 10 Eunuchs Rebellion a little bit. They do with Lu Bu in Dynasty Warriors 8. It's
I know.
pretty cool.
Which is awesome.
It's
I
pretty
agree.
cool. Gong Sun Zan, he might not seem important, but he was pretty damn important with Yuan Shao and very, very important to Liu Bei. If we're starting a Liu Bei story, almost like, I don't know if you remember Dynasty Warriors 4, where you did stories with certain characters.
Right.
If you do a Liu Bei story, it would make sense to start with Gong Sun Zan and him to be, he doesn't really need to even be a playable character, but hey, this is Gong Sun Zan. Give him a cutscene.
Right.
He's pretty important. Yuan Shu, the conflict with Wu in the south, Liu Biao.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
Dynasty Warriors 7 kind of hit that a little bit, but there's a lot more. Tao Qian, that was a pretty interesting story between Liu Bei and Cao Cao.
Right.
Not touched at all. I think that there's a lot they could do with what they already have.
Absolutely.
I don't think that they need to go, because I know you love Jin. I hate to say it like this, but I think Jin is like perfect where it's at.
Yeah, no, they're at a very Jin is at a very good point. I agree. There's only one thing I want added to Jin, but I'll let you finish.
Well, I think I'm gonna touch it anyway. Is if they're gonna go, we've got a defined parameter. We've got where the book begins with the 10 eunuchs, and then it goes to the end of where it ends with Jin.
Mhm.
I think that's our defined point. You want to talk about something else, you make a new game or a DLC about it.
Right.
And I think if you want to expand on that late game with Jin even more, I think you take a different route than they did with Dynasty Warriors 8. And I'm sure you're about to agree with me. Flesh out way. Make
Yeah.
them a faction worth beating.
Mhm.
Because as they are now, it's just like, yeah, we got this awesome story. We made this an awesome faction. Where are our awesome enemy? Nowhere. They're all dead. Zhao Yun's dead. Liu Bei's
Right.
dead. Everybody's dead.
It's true. Absolutely. I completely agree, and I would love if and this might be stretching it, but I don't know. I would love if they did this. I'd love if they'd have multiple battles at the same place, because like maybe not like a lot, but like I know that Jiang Wei had multiple campaigns against Wei and Jin.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I would love to,
Six.
right. So like I would love to see like those like some of those encounters, like Jiang Wei trying to like outdo them, and what's it called, things like that. There's only one thing though about Jin that I'd love if they did, and they very minorly hinted towards doing this in Dynasty Warriors 7 at the very end when they talk about how Sima Zhao dies, and then his son Sima Yan names himself Emperor of Jin, and then takes over Wu because Wu falls, under itself.
Right.
I would love if they made Sima Yan a playable character, or at least like a character of interest. So like you never really maybe you never really get to play as him, but at the very least like you can play as him in like free mode or something like that, because it's really interesting. Because in the cutscenes, Sima Yan is he's not just a regular character. Like they actually make him a little bit of something. You can see from like the back of his head. And
Right.
that's just one little thing. Other than that, I completely agree with you. I think that Jin is in a completely great area. They shouldn't be touched, and I totally agree that they should really work on the other factions like Wei and Wu and Shu.
All right. I think we hit a pretty good point with the story, but I think if there's anything left to talk about, it would be game modes. You play Dynasty Warriors, you pop it in, and there's more than just story mode. What do you want to see? Is there any game modes you want to see make a return, or what do you think that they should add to make it nice?
Um, I think that what I'd want, it's not a mode, but I don't know how I feel about it because I'd like it to be like optional. Actually, no, it was optional back in the day. I don't know if you remember, but in Dynasty Warriors 4, you could actually duel certain characters when you'd come across them.
Yeah.
And if you defeated them, I think you would get like pretty good items or at least good XP. And I really wish they did that again because I kind of like liked that, and I know that in the story and even in the book, they talk about the duels between generals, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
that I think that'd be really cool if they did that again. And like, if you dueled certain characters, you would get like really good, you'd get a good weapon, or you'd get like a lot of gold or a lot of XP. And I really, I really do like the duel option, and that's something. Not that it's a mode, but I'd love if they brought that back.
I agree, man. That is. I didn't really think about that too much. You know, you do. You're absolutely right with the book. They duel. That is the primary mode of combat for these generals, and most of the armies is most battles are decided with a duel. You know, one person goes out and fight one person. You got Guan Yu when he sliced off was it Yan Liang's head? Like that would be really, really cool to play as. You know, in the Romance of the Three Kingdom games, actually, the strategy games, they have duels. I don't know if it's still a feature, but that has traditionally been a feature. When you send your two armies up against each other, your two generals can duel. You know, why not do it in a game? That'd be a great idea. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, and they had it. They used to have it. In Dynasty Warriors 4, they did it really well in that I actually remember you would come up to somebody and it would go through a little cutscene and they'd be like, you dare challenge me if it's like Lu Bu. And then there's like a time bar and you click X if you want to duel him, which would be suicide if it was Lu Bu. but, but it's cool though too because they're a lot harder. Like I remember I dueled Zhang Fei and I died in like 3 hits. Like it's really difficult.
That is
But it's
one
like
way they
fun.
could make Lu Bu better.
Right.
Man, that could make this game. I could really get into that. You know.
Absolutely.
I'm a little tired of playing these Dynasty Warriors games to be a badass. To be honest, you know, I want to watch somebody else be a badass. I want to get my ass kicked by Lu Bu again. I'm gonna play Dynasty Warriors 5.
Yeah, exactly.
But well, I agree with you there. But I personally would like to see some other game modes too. There have been all sorts of different game modes, and of course, different games that expand from the base game of Dynasty Warriors. You know, you get Extreme Legends, you get Empires. For sure. Sometimes you get like Strike Force, whatever the hell that was. You get Aiketsuden, which is coming out soon. You get a lot of spin-offs, but on the base game, there's got to be more than just a story. Personally, this would be my wish list. You know, I don't want them to bring and add everything. That would be ridiculous. Way too much work for the publisher. We've waited so long for this game. Maybe it would be nice if they were all there, but it's too much to ask out of one game disc. But I would at least like a free mode, an option to take any of the characters and jump into any of the battles. Maybe you have to unlock them, that's fine. But an option to go back and play the battles without doing the story. I think they took free mode out of 7. I don't know about 8. And that kind of ticked me off a little bit. And that kind of hurts me as a YouTuber. Can't get my stock footage as easy. I gotta launch a story mode. It's a little noxious.
Right.
But I would love a free mode that's kind of like an essential for me. And if they had to go into another mode, they could take the safe route, and I would be happy with the challenge mode again. Or if they want to take that risk like they did with 7, I really loved Conquest mode. If they took that and they expanded on it, honestly, Conquest mode and story mode, Dynasty Warriors 7 is probably one of, if not my favorite Dynasty Warriors games.
Yeah, it's good.
There was a lot to do. It's not just story. Okay, I'm done. With Extreme Legends, Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends, you have you have to expand a little bit better than me. You get all these different story modes and hypotheticals. The story mode keeps you engaged for a while. If they implement just 1 or 2 of the ideas we talked about today, there would be a lot to do already. It'd be a great game.
Right.
Then you get the hypotheticals, and then you have, what was it, Ambition mode?
Yeah, which is essentially Conquest mode.
Yeah, okay. If they expand on that idea, I looked at that Ambition mode. It was all right. The Conquest mode, I like the Conquest mode because they kind of made it simple, you know?
Right.
I'm not playing a strategy or like a what is it? Like a Farmville game where I got to build all these things up.
Right.
I wouldn't mind just hopping tile to tile all across China and doing these geographically correct battles with all these different characters. And if they add an edit mode, which they might, I've heard some speculation, to the base game, and we got all of the creative options we are now seeing out of these Dynasty Warriors Empires games and the Samurai Warriors Empires games. I know they got a lot of great customization options. If we see that in a base Dynasty Warriors game, I know it's far-fetched, probably won't happen, but man, it would be cool to run through a conquest mode or a free mode with it.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, I think that's everything I wanted to cover today. How about you?
Yep, I think that covers it.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode today. And if you did, follow the series and subscribe to both of our channels because, man, we make so much Dynasty Warrior stuff.
Yup.
Yeah, man. You're making more too, right? We won't spoil it on camera.
Yeah, I have plans.
He's got plans. He's doing the maniacal Snidely Whiplash thing right now. So,
Yep.
All right. I think that's a good point to say goodbye.
All right,
do.
take care, guys.
All right.